Republicans are obsessed and they keep suing President Joe Biden for expanding voter registration opportunities. Welcome back to Democracy Docket. I'm Marc Elias.
So, Mark, 9 more Republican led states have sued President Joe Biden over an executive order that he issued in 2021 that expanded voter registration opportunities and made it easier to access accurate election information. This marks the 4th Republican lawsuit where Republicans are claiming that Biden overreached his authority with this order. What state attorney generals filed this lawsuit, and what are they arguing in this one?
Okay, so let's just start with the fact that if Republicans don't want to seem weird, why the hell are you keep filing these lawsuits? I mean, there is nothing weirder than Republican attorneys general spending taxpayer money attacking a presidential executive order that says, hey, federal government, where you can, try to make it easier to register to vote. I mean, if you want to not seem weird to people, stop doing that. Okay, so who's doing this? It's kind of like, honestly, it's like the bar scene out of Star Wars, right? It's the usual Republican suspects. It's the AGs in Iowa and Kansas, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, right? I mean, like, these folks have nothing better to do than to be like, hey, everyone, I want to attack voting rights. So I'm going to literally file more lawsuits against the United States of America for making voter registration easier. They are arguing that, federal law and the Constitution prevent the federal government from being engaged in voter registration promotion and the conduct of elections. It's a nonsense lawsuit. So it leaves us, Sophie, to ask the question, why are they doing this? Like it's not because they're actually going to win, right? We know that, right? Because Republicans file most of their lawsuits knowing they're not going to win. And I can't even imagine that they think that this is good politics for them, right? Like, they're telling their citizenry, hey, we're trying to make it harder for you to register to vote. So what's going on here? These are Trump sycophants. The Republican Party has become the party of Donald Trump. Everyone in the Republican Party who is in elective office is constantly trying to wave their arms and say, hey, Donald, look at me. Look at me, I'm doing something that you'll approve of, because they figure, maybe in their next election, or if they run for some other office, Donald Trump will endorse them. Well, here's my message. Eventually, Trumpism is going to be exposed for the fraud that it is, even within the Republican Party. And each and every one of you attorney generals who did this, you are going to go down in history as a shameful figure for attacking voting rights when democracy was at stake.
So this is the 4th lawsuit from Republicans that are attacking this 2021 pro-voting executive order. Are they literally filing the same lawsuit in all of these different states, or are their claims slightly different in each of these 4 cases?
Look, they all have slightly different legal claims, but they all are trying to achieve the same thing. And if you look at what the cast of characters are here, you've got these AGs. You've got the Pennsylvania Republicans, right? Who are like they're always like, if there's voter suppression to go on, you can count on the Pennsylvania Republicans to like be early to the party. They're like, where do we go to suppress? Oh, over there. Okay, we're going, right? Like, so like the Pennsylvania Republicans early to the party, they have a theory under the election clause, which is not even worth getting into. All right, the next one is from the America First Policy Institute, which is just like a bunch of Trump people. Like, it's like Larry Kudlow, who was in the administration, Linda McMahon, of WWE fame. I know, Sophie, you're probably a big fan of the WWE, Vince McMahon's wife. It's Trump people, but here's the thing, Sophie. You know who else is in that lawsuit with them? Frank LaRose, the attorney, the Secretary of State of Ohio, who, not that long ago, we were being told that he was like a moderate Republican, right? Like that ship has sailed, right? We now know he's MAGA through and through. And we've talked a lot at Democracy Docket about what he tried to do with the pro-choice ballot initiatives in Ohio, and all of the times he tried to rig those rules and wound up losing. Same with the redistricting amendment. But finally, and I can't let this one go, Ronnie Jackson, Like Ronnie Jackson, the congressman, you know who I'm talking about, Sophie?
Is he the one who is Trump's doctor?
Yeah, right. He's the doctor. He's the guy who was like, he was the White House physician who like became super Trumpy, and now he's in Congress. And it's like, you're kind of like, what do you do with that? Right. So Frank LaRose is really, Frank LaRose is really thrown in with the best and the brightest over there. Congratulations, Secretary of State, on losing your Senate race and making a complete fool out of yourself. And then finally, Missouri and Arkansas secretaries of state brought cases. I mean, what more is there to say?
So, why are Republicans targeting this specific executive order that was issued 3 years ago? What is so special about this order that they're targeting it now? And why are these lawsuits all cropping up now, all within the last 6 months?
Yeah. Okay. So look, Republicans have a two-part strategy for this election. They want to make it harder to vote and easier for them to cheat after the election. Okay, that's it. That's like their whole strategy. When Donald Trump says, I don't need you to vote, that's because this is his plan. He wants to make it harder to vote, easier to cheat. When he says Christians won't have to vote in 4 years, harder to vote, easier to cheat. Okay, this is it. This is like when the Republican Party puts out their splashy websites, and then Donald Trump recently in a video, let's show this video.
On November 5th or sooner, if it's early voting, which largely it is, which is ridiculous. We should have one-day voting, paper ballots.
Okay, there he is saying he doesn't like early voting, right? Like after the Republicans say he does like early voting, he doesn't like early voting. They want to make it harder to vote and easier to cheat. And one of the ways they do that is by targeting voter registration. So yeah, 3 years ago, President Biden issued an executive order saying, hey, federal government, try to make it easier to register to vote. And Republicans, their strategy is the opposite of that. Why did it take them so long? Well, probably because they were maybe secretly hoping that Donald Trump wouldn't be the nominee, but he is. And maybe then they thought Donald Trump would be less bombastic about voting, and that didn't happen. Then they thought maybe Ronna McDaniel would keep a lid on him, and well, that didn't happen. And then they thought maybe he's changed, and that hasn't happened. So here they are. They are back to their same plan of attacking voting everywhere they can, and they are bringing these lawsuits.
So you mentioned before that you said it's not even worth going into what the Pennsylvania Republican lawsuit is arguing, but I'm going to go into it a little bit. They're using this debunked independent state legislature theory to argue that Biden's pro-voting executive order violates the elections clause in the U.S. Constitution. So they have already appealed this case all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, who last year invalidated this debunked now ISL theory. We did a more in-depth video on this on our channel a few weeks ago, so you can check that out here. But can we just give a quick recap of this case and what the Supreme Court could rule here?
Yeah. So look, the independent state legislature theory is like the ultimate dream wish list of the Republican conservative legal establishment. You point out that they tried this last term in the Supreme Court and lost in the North Carolina case. There have been several other cases that they have tried to get up on this theory. A redistricting case out of Michigan. They have argued this in Pennsylvania. They have argued this most recently in Montana. They are trying to get the Supreme Court of the United States to take a Montana case under this debunked theory. This is their ultimate dream, which is to strip anyone other than state legislatures of the ability to enact any voting law or to review any voting law, to veto a voting law, to deem it unconstitutional under a state constitution. They want the state legislatures to be supreme. They want the state legislatures to be able to do whatever they want with respect to voting laws without any reference to any other branch of government, the federal government, the governors, the state courts. And it's because they have rigged state legislatures in a lot of places due to gerrymandering. So this is kind of what they want to do. So what is this case about? This case, I think, as much as anything else, is just another vehicle to try to get this to the Supreme Court. And we've talked about this in a number of videos. We recently talked about this with respect to the counting of absentee ballots that come in a day or to after the election, and how there has been a proliferation of lawsuits challenging that. Why? Because they're hoping that one of them gets to the Supreme Court. Here, having gotten one of them to the Supreme Court and having lost, they're trying to figure out another way to get another one to the Supreme Court and maybe try to get a different outcome. This is why Democracy Docket is so important, and it's the reason why everyone needs to subscribe, because Democracy Docket keeps you up to date on all of these lawsuits, but also helps add context.
Marc, what does it say about the state of the Republican Party today that they are choosing to use resources to stop the expansion of voter registration opportunities and access to accurate election information?
Yeah, so look, we have known for a long time that the Republican Party is morally bankrupt. I mean, they have nominated as their standard bearer someone who has been indicted in 4 different cases, has been convicted in one of them, has a long track record of saying absolutely outrageous things and immoral conduct. So they are morally bankrupt. But what we now know about the Republican Party is that they are also electorally bankrupt. What do I mean by that? They simply do not appeal to a majority of the voters. Like, that is the truth. Like, when we talk in this country about there being a 50-50 electorate, that is wrong. There is not a 50-50 electorate. Donald Trump lost in 2016 by 3 million popular votes. Now, he won under the Electoral College, but if you try to understand where the public is, he lost by 3 million votes. In 2020, he lost by 7 million votes. There is no one, including in his campaign, that thinks he will win a majority of the electorate in 2024. So what they are doing is they are relying on rigging rules to overcome the fact that the American public don't believe that what the Republican Party is offering is worth supporting. You know, if you're a woman in Illinois named Hannah and you are worried about your day-to-day life, you don't want what the Republican Party is selling. If you are, a restaurant owner in Washington, D.C., making your little gnocchi, you don't want what the Republican Party is selling. They are fundamentally not selling you anything that you want to be buying. And so this is the state of the Republican Party, where they are left to rigging the rules and trying to rig the outcomes. Thank you for watching another episode of Democracy Docket. Make sure you are subscribed to our free daily and weekly newsletters, and we'll see you next time.